Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your friendship podcast that's actually a magic podcast. Week
Surprise.
2. Yes, we couldn't get enough. It's time for more magic cards. Another budget magic episode. Are you guys excited?
Yeah.
We're here.
Oh, I can't wait. My name is Travis. I'm joined by the entire crew of Metapods. I've got Randy.
Hey.
Benjamin.
Hello.
And Eric. Everyone is here. We've got a great episode outlined for you today. We're going to start today with a shout out to our number one patron, David.
David, I love you.
Yes. It is so great to have David in our corner episode after episode. Thanks so much. David recently commented on our Martian Colony live play, said he loved it, said he wants more. So we are going to do that for you. Thank you so much for your support. You know, we are incredibly thankful to all of our patrons for all the support we get. If you, listener, want to become a patron for My Mythical Meta, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/MyMythicalMeta. We've got some great perks outlined for patrons. Benjamin, start us off.
Our number one perk for our number one Patreon and all our Patreons is 20% off at EldoradoGaming.com, where you can find our dice, play mats, accessories, already at a reasonable price. But if you're looking for something for Christmas or Hanukkah, come check us out, EldoradoGaming.com. Sign up on our Patreon and get 20% off.
Don't forget Kwanzaa.
I like that you
And-
spent the
and
time to mention Hanukkah, but not Kwanzaa.
I forgot
I
about
like
Kwanzaa.
Festivus,
Weird.
Festivus.
the annual
For the
airing
rest
of
of us.
grievances.
I'll be honest, Derek, I don't know a single person who celebrates Kwanzaa.
Well,
Do you have to know them to wish
No.
them?
I just have to. I have to know it.
You said to remember it.
I have to remember it exactly.
If you care about somebody else and you want to show them that you care, become a patron and go to EldoradoGaming.com. Randy, what are some other perks we have?
I'm going to mix it up on you. The access to the My Mythical Meta Discord server. I'm throwing a curveball at you. Have fun editing. Yeah, so the Discord server, that's where we hang out, post memes, talk about deck stuff. That's where we hang out whenever we're online, so...
Absolutely. And
Join
patrons
us.
have access to that Discord server. Patrons also get early and ad-free content. They get our episodes on Fridays instead of Mondays. So that way you don't have to wait for the work week. You can listen to it a full weekend early. And of course, ad-free content. Derek, what's our surprise Patreon perk this week?
it's a fun one, guys. You're going to want to go to the video version of this episode if you're not already there. Now take a look in Randy, Benjamin, and Travis's videos. All these goodies in the back of their rooms. You are
Not for
free to
sale.
pick one thing from one of their rooms, and they are obligated to give it to you as a new patron only.
That you can have that thing.
So
You can
now
have this
you'll
candle.
see behind me. There's nothing but work stuff and materials for building.
I don't know. A nice
By
computer
design.
is behind you,
I
bud.
mean, I'll take the monitor.
Hey, if
Yeah,
you
that's a
want
pretty nice
my work
display.
stuff, take it. Oh, someone stole my busted laptop. Let me get a new one.
Well, it's got components somewhere that Randy can sell on the black market.
Signs up for Patreon.
You know what? I got this for you. Included back here are all those lucky dice from our Martian Colony live play. If you want one of those lucky dice, sign up. I'll ship it to you. Here's the secret.
Lucky means they always
They
roll,
always roll
low.
low.
Whoa.
So they're lucky for Martian Colony, but not lucky for any other game. We have got a great episode outlined for you today. This is another Magic episode. It's Magic on a budget. We are going to talk about the best tutors in the game of Magic for under $5. Now, a tutor is a classification of card in Magic the Gathering that basically says you can search your deck for a specific card and put that card directly in your hand, usually, but some of them will say things like put them on the battlefield or put them in your graveyard. These cards are, I mean, they are an amazing way to level up your deck. They are going to make your deck more consistent. We are commander players, and so you can only have one of each card in your deck. So if I've got that combo card or that game-winning card and I need to hit it, I can throw in a tutor. And now I'm not limited to that one card each, that one card each game, that one card in my deck. Now I've got 2 copies. Now that second copy is going to take a little more mana. I might have to jump through a hoop for it, but it's still going to give me a much better chance to see my winning card than it would be if I were just drawing for it. I'm going to get to that winning card so much faster if I have a tutor. Tutors in Magic are called that because there's a set of cards that all have the word tutor in the name that search up cards from the deck. So in Black, the most popular ones are probably Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor. They cost 1 or 2 mana each, right?
Vampiric Tutor's 1, Demonic's 2.
Yeah, Vampiric Tutor is 1 mana, Demonic Tutor is 2, and they literally just say, search your deck for a card, put that card in your hand. So you don't have to show it to your opponents or anything because there were no restrictions on it. It can be any card you want. And every color has their other tutors as well. White has the Enlightened Tutor. Green has Worldly Tutor.
Blue has Mystical Tutor, and
Blue has Mystical Tutor.
Red does
What's the
red
red
have
one?
a? Yeah, what is the red one?
I mean, Gamble seems to be their version of Tutor.
Yeah. They don't have a tutor. There is Goblin Tutor in one of the unsets. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, that's why we think this episode is going to be a great hit for beginners who are looking to level up their decks. A tutor is going to help your deck be so much more consistent. Now, Benjamin has got some extra warnings for us if you are thinking about adding tutors to your decks. It is going to change the way your deck plays, and it might affect not only your own deck, but your play group. Benjamin, go ahead.
Yeah, so tutors, very powerful, like you said, very useful, but they do have a dark side. So they tend to make gameplay repetitive, which in a competitive format is exactly what you want, right? If you are the type of player, like I think all of us are most of the time, that likes to add fun cards to your deck or things that are maybe less than optimal because you like the kind of experience. When you're going for the win and you have a tutor in hand, you're not going to search for the worst card, right? You're going to search for the optimal card, which means that your repetitive pattern of gameplay means you're not going to see some of the fringier cards you put in your deck. And that means that if you put too many tutors in your deck where you're seeing a tutor or 2 or 3 every game, then a good chunk of your deck is just never going to be seen, right? Because you're never going to search for it and the game's going to be over before you would get to it. So that's really good if you're trying to play competitively or if you're really relying on combos to finish the game. There's a threshold of tutors where if you start putting those in your deck, it starts the arms race with the rest of your play group, and where each of you is trying to play the most powerful cards the most often, and it can take you from being a casual group with wacky gameplay and those fun those fun opportunities that you have to tell great stories or top decking the miracle card to being competitive, streamlined tryhards, basically. Some people like to play that way, right? There's a whole section of Magic that's all about competitiveness. Most people consider Commander to be a more casual game for, like we talk about having a pro wrestling meta, or we still play tutors, but we don't play so many of them that we are no longer in it for the fun.
Right. And, we've said a couple times already, tutors are very powerful. And the best ones, like we said, Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, they're very expensive dollar-wise. The actual dollar value of those cards gets very, very high because they can search for your silver bullet. They can search for the answer you need or the combo piece you need to win. And we know that level of play and that level of expense is not for everybody. Now, one option is to proxy your cards.
Love
Am I
that
right,
idea.
fellas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One option is always to proxy your cards, but another option is to look through the 30,000 cards that Magic has and see if there are cheaper budget alternatives. And what we hope today is all about is showing you that those alternatives do exist. We found them for you. Every card we talk about today is less than $5. We're recording this on November 18th, 2024. These
Put a little
cards
asterisk next to it.
yeah, exactly. These cards have seen a number of reprints over the years, or they're not as good as the best versions, and that is going to keep them. That's going to keep their price low. So, as you listen to this episode, think about the themes in your deck that you want to power up. Think about the power level of your group. You know, how much do you want to push them? And then lastly, think about your budget. And we hope that we've curated a great list of the best tutors in Magic for less than $5. Let's do this. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do.
I guess.
Just like last week, we have divided today's episode into colors. And then within each of those colors, we've kind of talked about some categories of tutors. A lot of the tutors we found won't search for any card, but instead, as long as your deck has what this card is looking for, then it's going to function the same way a tutor would. All right, Randy is going to start us off as our resident expert in white. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off with Open the Armory and Steel Shaper's Gift. Open the Armory costs a white and 1, and Steel Shaper's is just a single white. So both of them do pretty similar things. They want to get either an equipment or a enchantment called an aura, which you equip directly to a single creature. They want to get it out of your library and directly onto the battlefield. Okay. Steel Shapers wants it into your hand. Open the Armory wants it onto.
They both put it in your hand.
Open the Armory also just goes to hand.
I can't read apparently. Open the Armory and Steel Shapers Gift both want it to go to your hand. I don't know why I thought they wanted it into the battlefield.
Yeah, so Open the Armory does an aura or an equipment, and Steel Shaper's Gift does only an equipment, which is why it costs 1 less.
Anyway, I enjoy them because I like playing, decks that kind of go around that theme of Voltron, take things, soup them up. So, being able to get that one just really good artifact that is going to help you win. I'm shoving some of them, like Nazan's Hammer is really nice, Colossal Hammer.
Yes.
Any of the Swords of Blank and Blank.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all really, really good ones. Great for proxying because ain't no one got that kind of money.
One of my favorites is Gift of Immortality. I put that in a lot of decks because I pulled a foil in Theros, and I just think it's really cool. I love the idea that my opponent has to kill a creature twice in order to kill it. And Open the Armory is going to help me get it. And it's going to be great protection for my commander. I might pull out Spirit Mantle or anything else that makes my commander almost impossible to get rid of. That's perfect.
Kaya's Ghost Form is a great one to pull out for that.
Yes, Kaya's Ghost Form for sure.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I didn't realize this until we started this episode. White loves to search out legendary creatures or legendary cards. They're like, let's find our leader. And those are the cards that I found. I've got Search for Glory, and it lets you search out a snow permanent, a legendary card, or a saga card. And you can put those into your hand. It does also say that you gain 1 life for each snow spent to cast this spell. And it only costs 3. So if your deck's got snow, great. You get to add a little bit of life to your total. But other than that, it's a tutor for 3 for any legendary card. That's great. You can find lands. You can find legendary creatures, legendary artifacts. There's a card from Lord of the Rings called War of the Last Alliance. This is a saga, and its first 2 chapters are the same. Search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So War of the Last Alliance costs 4 total, 3 and a white, but then over the course of the turn you play it and the next, you get to tutor 2 creatures out.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome. And there's certainly nothing wrong with its 3rd chapter if you get it there. Creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn, and the ring tempts you. That's pretty good. The last one that I have here, Thalia's Lancers. It costs 3 white for a 4/4 with first strike. Nothing shabby about that body there. When Thalia's Lancers enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So again, legendary land, legendary creature, legendary artifact. Planeswalkers are legendary. There's legendary instants and sorceries now. Thalia's Lancers, Search for Glory. These are great cards that are going to help you find any legendary card from your deck. And then having a 4/4 with first strike is nothing to scoff at. I think that's a really good group of cards.
Awesome. Another thing White is really good at is searching for small creatures. And so there are two itty bitty creatures. Yeah. So there's a lot of small creatures that have big effects on them. So the first one, the Ranger of Eos, is a 4-mana 3/2, and it says when it enters the battlefield, you get to find 2 creatures with converted mana cost 1 or less and put them in your hand. The thing about that, putting them in your hand, because they both cost 1 or 0, you can probably immediately play them. So there are lots of combo pieces that only cost 1, right? There's probably the biggest one is going to be sack outlets, things that let
like
you
Viscera Seer.
like Viscera Seer, exactly. But the other one, if you're just trying to go big and wide, right? Go get Serra Ascendant. It comes out as a 6/6 flying lifelink, right? And this lets you find it. It finds mana dorks if you want to ramp. It's just really, really versatile because for 4 mana you get this one plus 2 more creatures that help you in the early game. Another one similar is Recruiter of the Guard. It's a 1/1, but when it comes into play, you can search your library for a creature with toughness 2 or less, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So this can work in a couple ways. One, you can find things that are, say, 0/0, get +1/+1 for each. It's like Multani, right? Mm-hmm. Multani is a 0/0 while it's in your library until you play her, and she gets +1/+1 for each land card in your hand or graveyard. So Recruiter of the Guard can
just
search
had a realization. He's like, ooh.
Yeah, but Recruiter of the
Guard, go find one of 100 Hydras.
Yep,
that all have power 0/0.
So that's one way. The other one is there's a lot of utility creatures. So like Ranger of Eos that we just talked about that let you find 2 1-mana creatures. Well, it only has toughness 2, right? So a lot of very powerful creatures. So the ability to find small creatures is more powerful than it seems like because you can build your deck with strong small creatures with big effects.
Yeah, I think that's great. The last one for White. Go ahead, Derek.
Well, hold on. You've sent me down a spiral I need to investigate.
What, for Ranger of Eos and Recruiter?
Celestia Hydras.
Huh?
Coming in for tutor some little guys, right. And they come in with counters.
And Ranger of Eos can also tutor all the Hydras that are X and a green.
Yeah.
Yeah, because their CMC in the deck is 1.
I like that. I was thinking.
Sick.
Well, there's plenty of Selesnya commanders, but Hydras are cool.
I think I would do Karametra for that.
Yeah.
I think I would do Kudo, King Among Bears. Makes everything a 2/2.
Pumps them all
so
yeah.
Yeah.
The 0/0s become 2/2s.
Yeah. Good fun.
That's awesome.
Okay,
So
go ahead. That's
so the cards that Benjamin talked about, they tutor for these cards. One card that those cards could get is Weathered Wayfarer. It only costs 1 mana for a 1/1. Mm-hmm. Nothing special about it except for the ability pay white and tap it to search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Activate only if an opponent controls more lands than you. We'll touch more about that later also, but getting any land, I mean, you can get it at instant speed. You just have to make sure you activate it, then play your land for turn, or as soon as someone hits that threshold, slam it down, get your land to hand. It certainly helps to ramp because that's kind of how White does it. Usually they have to go get planes, but this one specifically is go get land.
You can also
get a land.
Crack your Evolving Wild. It's sacrificed while the ability's on the stack.
Yeah, then you'll have one less. Yes. Smart.
We thought it was relevant to keep a few effects today that can search for any land. There are lots of decks out there that use specific lands as part of their combo package or the need to get to a certain threshold of mana. You know, one of my favorite special lands is Phyrexian Tower, where you can tap sack a creature to add black. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Of course, Benjamin is familiar with Cabal Coffers and
Yep. Urborg.
That's right.
And
So,
of course, Nykthos. Can always go get a Nykthos.
Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, Maze of Ith. If you're maybe you're running a Pillow Fort deck and you need protection every turn,
or Homeward Path if someone keeps stealing your stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Remember when Randy had Homeward Path in his deck when Benjamin was playing his John Arenicus deck?
Yeah.
And Randy had a Homeward Path in there? That was perfect.
Yeah.
I think Weathered Wayfarer is a great pick. Obviously, it's good just in general in white to keep up with everybody else in terms of lands. But it does have that that bonus of searching for any land that I think is so good. Okay, we're going to jump into blue now. Now, blue traditionally is all about just raw card draw. You know, it just wants to see as much of the deck as it can. But it has a few effects as well that are going to target specific things, especially artifacts, and we're going to get to that. Benjamin, start us off. What is one of blue's most powerful tutoring tools?
So blue has an enchantment called Archmage Ascension. And it at the end of each instep, so I'll come back to that. If you drew 2 or more cards this turn, you put a quest counter on it. And then when you have 6 or more quest counters on it, if you would draw a card, instead you search your library for a card and put it in your hand. It costs 3. So your goal is going to be to get this out fairly early. And then you're just going to want to be, instead of drawing a whole bunch of cards, you'll just draw 1 or 2 extra cards every turn. And if your deck is set up that way, then once you've done that 6 times, then every card draw after that is searching your library instead. You play a divination, it's a 3-mana search for 2 cards. It's also really powerful because if you're playing a deck like that, there's always the chance that you're going to mill out. This will keep you from milling out because you never draw a card again.
Because it replaces draw.
So it means that you will every card draw spell is finding exactly what you need. You're drawing exactly the cards you want. It takes a little bit to get set up. It does mean you have to draw 2 cards over 6 turns. And if you're doing that, you're probably doing pretty good anyway. But
yeah.
I've played games where I've drawn my entire deck and lost because I just didn't draw the cards in the right order. And by the time I had all the cards in my hand, I was dead. And Travis probably remembers that game too, where he got me to draw like 60 cards. This is when I was playing my
Your Uro deck.
My Uro deck.
Yeah, I remember now.
If I had played Archmage Ascension, then I would have had the cards in the right order.
Another option to help get you up to those 6 quest counters is running a few proliferate effects in your deck.
True. Yeah.
And trying to add some quest counters that way. But once you hit that threshold of 6 quest counters, every future draw is the card that you need. I think that's going to be pretty hard to beat. You know, if you get Archmage Ascension off, you should be winning. You should win that deck. You should win that game.
Yeah.
You should win that game because you had access to every answer, every threat you needed at the time you needed it. It's pretty cool. Derek, what else can blue tutor for?
Yeah, so, if white was about legendary stuff, blue's about instants and sorceries primarily. So these next 2, personal tutor costs 1 blue to get a sorcery card, put it on top of your library. And then, that's at sorcery speed. Solve the equation, blue and 2 for a sorcery, search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, put it into your hand instead. So both of those are really going to help you, go fetch with solve the equation, go find an instant, like maybe a counter spell or something, and blam, save yourself. Or, there are sorcery cards that can tutor enchantments. So play personal tutor, go get, an enchantment tutor to go get Archmage Ascension. That's how you start getting in, the more and more you do that, and the better, more efficient they are, that's how you start getting the CDH.
And I mean, there are plenty of sorceries that people can build their deck around to win the game. Expropriate, Epic Experiment. Like, these are just really big sorceries where if you play it, you're probably going to win. And that's how Magic has been designed from the beginning, where if you get to 8 or 9 mana and you play an 8 or 9 mana spell, you should usually win that game. So maybe you have that card in your deck and you're ready, but you can't draw it. Well, throw Personal Tutor in there or solve the equation and then just fetch your Expropriate and you're ready to go. Yeah. My next section is about artifacts. Blue is the color of technology and advancement, and they have a few spells that help you get artifacts directly from your deck onto the battlefield. Now, one of them is a tutor that goes to hand. It's called Fabricate. Costs 2 and a blue. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Pretty standard. 3 mana for an artifact tutor. The other two are pretty cool because they can fetch whatever artifact you need and put it directly onto the battlefield. The first is called Reshape. It costs blue, and X, and it requires you to sacrifice an artifact. But then you get to search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it directly on the battlefield. The cool thing about Reshape, I think, is that you can tap your mana rocks, your mana artifacts, in order to help bolster your X value, and then just sacrifice one of those.
Yeah.
You know, tap whatever signet you need, increase your mana count value of X, and then just sacrifice it because you're done with it. And use that to get out your Panharmonicon or your, what's it called? Portal to Phyrexia or Gateway to Phyrexia or something.
Yeah.
It's the one that says each opponent sacrifices 3 cards or 3 creatures, and then you can get a creature from the graveyard every turn.
I think that's the Phyrexian one.
Yeah, something like that. So I think Reshape is really good. The next one is very similar. It's called Whir of Invention. It costs blue, and X, but it also has Improvise. Your artifacts can help to cast this spell. So if you've got random equipments lying around, if you've got other utility artifacts lying around, like a spell book or your Panharmonicon or whatever, you can start tapping those to increase X. Clue tokens? Yeah, absolutely. It says search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less. Again, put it directly onto the battlefield and then shuffle your library. So both Reshape and Whir of Invention have easy ways to increase the value of X, and then you don't have to wait to put it in your hand. You get it directly onto the battlefield from your deck. I think these are awesome cards, especially if you've got treasures and clues lying around. Whew. Whir of Invention and Reshape are going to help you get the good stuff out of your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like those. And this next category is all about artifacts too. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I read ahead this time to make sure I knew what the cards did. Make sure that going into your hand. All right.
Yes.
So these 4 cards are 99.9% exactly the same, except for 1 number changes.
Yes.
Trinket Mage, Tribute Mage, Trophy Mage, and Treasure Mage. They are all a blue and 2. And all of them will search for an artifact card, and put it into your hand. Trinket does a 1 mana artifact or less. Tribute 2 mana or less. Trophy will do 3 mana or less, and Treasure goes all the way to 6 big boy mana or less.
A tribute and trophy have to be 2 and 3.
Tribute is exactly 2, trophy is exactly 3, and treasure is 6 or greater. Not
6 or greater.
6 or greater.
Hey.
I read the wrong part. I was like, it's in the hand. I got it this time.
Let's give Randy props. He had 4 cards that he thought he was reading the same text box.
It got old after the second time. See, this is why I'm not the best Magic player. I don't know why you have me on these Magic episodes.
No, I have a deck with all 4 of these in it. I have a
Before
deck
too.
with Trinket, Tribute, Trophy, and Treasure Mage in it. Because they're all wizards, I have them in my Nabon Dean of Iteration deck.
Go get 2 artifacts.
So that each time, yeah, exactly. So that each time one of them comes in, I get to search for 2 artifacts and put them in the hand instead. Pretty cool.
All right.
Is there anything you guys want to add to blue or any of these cards? Our next color is black. Now, the cards we mentioned at the very beginning of the episode, the poster tutors of Magic the Gathering, Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor, they're black. Black says you can search for any card and there will often be a price attached. And that's the section that I'm going to look at. Black has tons of budget options, y'all, for searching your deck for any card, but these are going to have a drawback or a little extra mana cost or some kind of condition attached to them. Benjamin had just seen this card when we started this episode, Insatiable Avarice. This is a new card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It costs 1 black, but then it has Spree, which means you can pay these extra costs to get these extra effects. If you add 2 colorless, you can search your library for any card and put the card on top of your deck. If you add black, then target player draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. So you can pay 3 to get any card, put it on your deck. You can pay 3 to draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. Or you can pay 5 to get the exact card you want plus 2 more. It's a pretty neat ability, I think, with plenty of versatility. I talk on the show a lot about Knight's Whisper and Sign in Blood. 2 mana, draw 2, lose 2 life. Insatiable Avarice, if I want, is 3 mana, draw 3, lose 3 life. That is a price I will pay. I'm happy to do that with Insatiable Avarice.
Mm-hmm.
Profane Tutor is just like Demonic Tutor, 2 mana for any card into your hand, but it has Suspend 2. You pay your 2 mana, but then you get your card 2 turns later. I think this is still good if you want to stay in a more wacky, more casual meta. You just warn your opponents, hey guys, you have 2 turns to kill me. Because if you don't, you're going to die. You're going to die when this resolves. I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome. And it's not like you get the card and reveal it face up or anything. It's just in 2 turns, Profane Tutor goes off, I get my card secretly, and then you all die. Like whatever the card you get. The next card is a legendary creature. That means it can be your commander. You can have this in the command zone if you want. It's called Sidisi Undead Vizier. Costs 5 mana, 3 black for a 4/6 with Death Touch, and it has Exploit. That means whenever it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice a creature. If you do that, if you sacrifice a creature, then you get to search your library for any card and put it in your hand. I think that's an incredible effect for any legendary creature. It says, hey, you cast your commander, you get any card from your deck. I think that's really cool. All right. There are a few more in black. This next one I think is really fun because you get your card, but then an opponent gets a chance to get their card too. It's called Wishclaw Talisman. This artifact enters with 3 wish counters on it, and then it only costs 1. Tap, remove a wish counter from this artifact, and then search your library for a card. But then an opponent gains control of it. So 3 people are going to get cards, and your opponent is probably not going to give you Wishclaw Talisman back. They're probably going to give it to another opponent unless you're playing 1v1. So it's pretty cool. If you want your tutor, then you have to give your opponent a tutor also. Okay, let's move on to the next section. This next one is not necessarily about getting cards into your hand. It's about getting cards into your graveyard. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Yeah, so black likes to play in the graveyard. So oftentimes there are certain decks where putting cards directly from your library into your graveyard is just as good as putting it in your hand. So there's a group of cards. Probably the best one is Buried Alive in this price range. Buried Alive costs 3, and it says search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard. So if you're doing mass reanimation or you're doing the dance, putting cards in and out of your graveyard, this one puts your 3 best creatures in your graveyard for you to have access to. There's a couple of creatures that do that. There's Corpse Connoisseur and Gravebreaker Lamia. They both come into play and go search for a creature card and put it in your graveyard. Actually, Gravebreaker Lamia just puts any card in your graveyard, so that's really good.
Yeah.
Auric Lore Mage, it's not an enter the battlefield, it's a tap ability, but when you can tap it to search your library for a card and put it in your graveyard, and if it's an instant or sorcery, then it's +1/+1. It gets a +1/+1 counter, but you're probably just putting creatures so that you can reanimate them. And then a really good one, if you don't want just everything in your graveyard, is Final Parting. It's 5 mana for a sorcery. You search your library for 2 cards. You put one of them into your hand and the other in your graveyard. So you get whatever. One great use of that is you put your giant creature in your graveyard and your reanimation spell in your hand. So then you get.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly. I was going to say you put your. What's that white Archon that says your opponents can't attack?
Archon.
Justice. Archon
No, it's
Justice?
not. It's not Justice.
That's the one I always think of because it came in the Graveborn event deck.
I really liked
Archon of
Justice.
A Bad Time.
A Blazing Archon.
Blazing Archon. Creatures can't attack you. Yeah, stick Blazing Archon in the graveyard and then reanimate in your hand.
Exactly. And so
perfect.
And then you're safe. Yeah. You do stuff like that. So those are examples. There are a few others, but those are some of the better ones. I really like Gravebreaker Lamia because it also says spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less. So it puts the card in your graveyard and then you get to play it for 1 cheaper. So it's pretty good.
It's a house in like a Muldrotha deck.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Anyone that lets you just cast cards straight from your graveyard, Gravebreaker Lamia is going to be great for that. All right, as we go to red, as we mentioned earlier, doesn't have tutors.
Just the goofy little guys.
Planning is not something that red does a lot. So the cards we found, I think, are really cool. Derek, take it away. Go ahead.
Yeah, so red's all about impulsivity and whatnot. So let's go gambling. Dang it. So the first card we have is Gamble. 1 red for a sorcery. Search your library for a card. Put that card into your hand. Discard a card at random, then shuffle. Listen, you do what you got to do. Roll the dice. Maybe you have a full hand and the odds are real low. Maybe it's part of the plan. Like, hey, discarding is okay because like it's cheaper to cast from the graveyard or something.
Yeah.
That's how red does it. You know, you play real loose. And then connected to this also is Wild Research. This is red and 2 for an enchantment. And then you can pay white and 1. This is 2 different abilities. White and 1. Search a library for an enchantment card. Reveal that card. Put it into your hand. Then discard a card. So it's gamble, but for enchantments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second ability is blue and 1. Search a library for an instant card. So also gamble, but for instants. Really cool if you're in those colors.
Yeah, when I found Wild Research, I was amazed. I'd never seen this card before, and now red is saying, hey, if you've got some white, you can gamble for enchantments too. Hey, if you've got some blue, hey, you can gamble for instants too. So a red, white, and blue deck that wants things in its graveyard, maybe things have flashback, or maybe you've got some white recursion. White is one of the other recursion colors, so maybe you have some in there. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, certainly. Those are like the peak flashback colors, at least for like instants and sorceries. And then, like you said, white's gonna have a lot of like Sun Titan effects where it gets permanents. So your enchantments that are like 1, 2, 3, CMC. So yeah, I think this is a really good card. You could work your deck around to have very little downside.
Exactly. Red as a color doesn't do the planning, but you can do the planning. You can make sure that your deck is built around this so that the consequences are reduced for you. Yeah. And now we go to
the
green.
Best color, baby.
Once again, green has dominated this list that we made today. there's 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 cards in our green list.
Can you guess who is Magic's favorite?
Green. I mean,
Most ramp,
it's the
most tutors,
Second
most ramp,
card
most
draw.
tutors,
Biggest
card draw,
creatures.
life gain, biggest creatures.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
The sun
Green
never
has-
sets on the Green Empire.
Green has got tons of great effects for tutoring what you need from your deck. I'm going to talk about probably the biggest and most obvious one, the creature tutors. Green knows how to search creatures from your deck and get them into your hand or directly onto the battlefield. The first section that I'm going to talk about are the ones where in the early game you can search for a land, but in the late game you can search for a creature. I've got Analyze the Pollen and Traverse the Ulvenwald. Both of these cost 1 green. They're both sorceries. Traverse the Ulvenwald just says search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Not good, unless you need to be discarding lands for something. But it has Delirium. If there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, then instead search your library for a creature or land. So now I can get a creature, any creature from my deck into my hand, or I'm not limited to a basic anymore, and I can get any land now. That's pretty cool once you've hit Delirium. I thought Analyze the Pollen was very interesting. This says, as an additional cost to cast the spell, you may collect evidence 8. Collecting evidence means you can exile cards from your graveyard with mana value 8 or more. It says search your library for a basic land card, but if you collected evidence, if you paid the additional cost, then instead search your library for a creature or land. So it undergoes the same change that Traverse the Ulvenwald does. You can search for a creature, or you can switch from basic to any land and put them into your hand. In the early game, your graveyard won't have enough to trigger that bonus, so you can search your deck for a basic land card. But if you're in the late game, where you can pay the collect evidence cost, or you can hit Delirium, well, now you can just search any creature from your deck to your hand for 1 green. That is awesome. The next one we have is Summoner's Pact. The cards that say Pact in the title tend to be really, really good because they cost 0. They cost 0 to play. They're instants. You can play them at any time, except that they have something you have to do later. So here's Summoner's Pact. It costs 0. It's an instant. Search your library for a green creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. For free, add instant speed, I get to search for a creature card. That's awesome. But it has this rider text. At the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 green. If you don't, you lose the game. Your game is over if you don't pay the 2 green. Now here's how you play Summoning Pact where that doesn't matter. You cast Summoning Pact, you get the creature you needed to win the game. You should be winning whenever you play Summoner's Pact. That way you don't have to worry about the next upkeep price to pay.
Right.
You just win. Search for your Craterhoof Behemoth. Search for whatever. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I was just gonna say that's what I was gonna say. You win, you get your combo piece, your finisher. Summoner's Pact is also nice because it switches the normal way tutors work. Normally, tutors you pay your mana to go get your card. Sometimes that means you don't have enough to play your card, so you have to wait till the next turn to play what you searched for. Summoner's Pact lets you play the card you searched for first, then pay the cost later. So it still gives you tempo even if you play it fairly.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Absolutely. And guys, it's any card that has 0 in the casting cost or has an alternate cost to cast spells. That's pretty good. You know, we were pretty surprised that Summoner's Pact was under $5, but here it is because it was reprinted a couple times. The one I'm looking at is Time Spiral Remastered. It got printed again, and that's going to help bring your price down. The next 2 are going to bring creatures directly onto the battlefield: Chord of Calling and Tooth and Nail. Tooth and Nail was a very expensive card, both dollar and mana value, for a long time. But it had a reprinting in Commander Masters. And there were 3 different versions of it in Commander Masters. Tooth and Nail says choose one, search your library for 2 creature cards, reveal them and put them in your hand. Or you can choose the other, put 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. And that's for 7 mana. For 7 mana, you get one of those effects. For 9, you get 2. You get to search your deck for the 2 cards you need to win the game, slam them both down onto the battlefield, you're done. Like, Tooth and Nail is extremely good. Chord of Calling basically says pay X plus green, 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 and then you can search your deck for a creature with mana value X, shove it directly onto the battlefield. Basically, Chord of Calling is the exact same as Whir of Invention, except for creatures instead of artifacts. I just noticed that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, both of those are going to get cards directly from your deck directly onto the battlefield. The last one, Benjamin found this card earlier, and I'd never seen it before. It's called Threats Undetected. 2 and a green. Search your library for up to 4 creature cards with different powers and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2. Shuffle the chosen cards into your library, put the rest into your hand. So the first time I saw this, I thought, so you get to pick 4 creatures and you get to keep the worst 2. That's kind of what it reads to me, but Benjamin, can you talk about why you think this card's good?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can play this to make it where you get your good cards. The most obvious way is you have 2 cards that you want, and you also have 2 cards that can search for those. And we're going to get to those in a second, but there are creatures that when they come into play, they let you search for other cards. So that way you're always getting the 2 you want. Either you get the 2 you want, or you get the 2 that tutor for those. You shuffle those back, and then you play these, get them, right? The other way, because Commander is a political format, you're playing with multiple people, you just look to someone who's losing and say, I can help you clear up the board a bit if you give me these 2 good creatures. And then you can also bully them into it. So you can have, say, you get 2 good creatures, and then your other 2 can be something like Reclamation Sage or Acidic Slime. These are cards that when they come into play, they destroy something, and you say, either you give me these 2 good ones, or you give me these bad ones, and they're going to be destroying your things, and kind of bully somebody into giving you what you want.
Messed up.
Because you get to pick which opponent makes the choice, and you can always choose somebody that just can't afford to not give you what you want. For 3 mana, getting 2 creatures into your hand, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good for 3 mana. That's pretty awesome. All right, Benjamin, keep going. Take it away with your next section.
All right. So we didn't include a lot of cards that search for a basic land because that's ramp. It's another episode. But there are lots of strategies in Magic that rely on having specific non-basic lands. Things like your Urborg and Cabal Coffers and stuff like that. And green has a few cards that help you do that. You have there's several sorceries. The 2 best ones I think are going to be Nylea's Intervention and Sylvan Scrying. Sylvan Scrying, just pay 2 mana, go fetch any land from your deck into your hand. Nylea's Intervention is 2 and X to be able to search your library for up to X land cards and put them in your hand. It also has another mode where you can just deal twice X damage to all creatures with flying, so it's a nice backup board wipe when you need it. But probably the gold standard for this type of effect is Crop Rotation. It only costs green, so just 1 mana. You do have to sacrifice a land, but then it goes and fetches that land and puts it directly on the battlefield, so you can, at instant speed, go get the land you need for what you're doing. If someone's swinging at you with a huge creature, and you're like, fine, you play it. You can sack the land you tapped for this, right? So you tap your forest, sack it, go get your Maze of Ith. It comes into play untapped. So,
yeah,
great. If you have, if you have the mana and the setup available, you can go. It might look like you only have a forest up. Surprise! I'm gonna fetch a Nykthos or Temple of the False God or something that gives me more mana, and now I can do something to you that you didn't expect. So Crop Rotation is really good for that. So all 3 of these will let you get any type of land. We've mentioned a few others that do that. That's a very, very powerful effect.
Yeah. Derek, our resident green expert, is going to talk about some green cards that fetch out big green creatures. Go for it.
Yeah, so here are some conditional green tutors for creatures. Fierce Empath is green and 2 for an elf, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, so this could be flickered, bounced, recurred over and over again for this effect. Search your library for a creature card with mana value 6 or greater, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. What I like to do with this card is I like to play Fierce Empath, tutor for the next card, Protean Hulk. Green, green, and 5 for a 6/6 beast. When Protean Hulk dies, search your library for any number of creature cards with total mana value 6 or less, put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. So depending on which one I get first, Protean Hulk, when it dies, I go get Fierce Empath and some other stuff, or Fierce Empath goes to get Protean Hulk, and then I go get some other stuff, in just whatever combination I need, whatever silver bullets I'm looking for here in a creature heavy deck that I usually play. Monvoli, I'm just guessing at the name here. Beast Tracker is green, green, 1 for a Human Scout 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with Death Touch, Hexproof, Reach, or Trample and reveal it. Shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. So it lets you this would be a fun card in Indominus Rex Alpha or something like that. I don't know.
You can get whatever keyword you need next.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be super cool. I just like the flexibility, how weird it is. Time of Need, green and 1 for a sorcery. Search your library for a legendary creature card. Certainly have several of those. Put it into your hand, shuffle your library. Fauna Shaman, green 1 for an Elf Shaman 2/2. It's got an ability that's green, tap, discard a creature card. 2, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle.
Yeah, you can recycle a creature you don't need and trade it out for a creature that you do need from your deck.
Yeah. I like it, especially Fauna Shaman in your Golgari, Sultai type decks that are very graveyard focused. Love that card.
Yes, I think I have it in my Marin of Clan Neltoth deck. Put a card that I want to reanimate from my hand, put that creature directly in the graveyard. I get to tutor out a creature from my deck, and then Marin will reanimate the creature I just discarded. Very nice.
Love it.
All right, so you guys want to add anything to green?
It can do it all.
What do you say about the color that has everything?
Give it
some more. Give it targeted removal.
Give it the targeted removal. Oh, well, it's got it. That was last week's episode, was the removal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like last week, after we went through each color, I want to provide a spotlight for some multicolor cards. As you start moving away from monocolor into multicolor, your windows are going to open up a little bit more. And as the colors combine, you can start tutoring for more and more different things. We've got 9 cards here that are multicolor in some way, some combination of other colors, and they've all got different things you can tutor for. So here's another one that tutors up an equipment. Earlier we did Open the Armory for white and 1 of any color. Well, here we have Fighter Class for white and red. When Fighter Class enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment card and put it directly into your hand. So that would be about the same if it were done, but that's not it for Fighter Class. It has 2 level up abilities. You can level it up once for 1 red and white. Equip abilities you activate cost 2 less to activate. All of those Sword of Blank, Sword of Feast and Famine, Sword of Fire and Ice, their equip cost is 2, right, Benjamin?
That's right. Yep.
They cost 3, equip for 2.
Mm-hmm.
Bam. Fighter Class, level 2, they all equip for free. That's nice.
It is nice.
And you can also level it up again for 5. I'm not sure if this is worth going all the way to. I think it's good with level 1 and 2, but level 3 costs 3 red white. Whenever a creature you control attacks, up to 1 target creature blocks it this combat if able. Great if your opponent has a utility creature that you need to get off the board. You can force that creature to block yours, kill it in combat, be done with it. For 5 mana, I'm not sure how often I would actually use that part, but anyway, seems good. I also want to talk about Gerard's Orders. We talked about Final Parting earlier. Black, and 3 to search for 2 cards, get 1 into your hand and 1 into your graveyard. Gerard's Orders is the exact same effect, but it only costs 4. It costs black, green, and 2.
And only gets
So
creatures.
it's trading. What'd you say, Benjamin?
And it only gets creatures.
Oh, I completely missed that. Search your library for. Randy's not the only one, y'all, who misses cards on stuff. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards and reveal them. Put one into your hand, the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So a less total mana value, but when you add green, you add a little specificity to it, and now you still have an awesome effect for less mana. The one more that I wanted to add, just because I'd never seen this card before today's search, it's called Congregation at Dawn.
You've never seen it?
Really?
I'd never seen it before.
It's in my
Wow.
Geshaft deck.
I've never seen you play it, I don't think.
It'd be really good in
I don't
Geshaft.
think I have.
Yeah, I imagine it would be really, really good in your Geshaft deck. Congregation at Dawn, green, green, white for an instant. Great to play at the end of somebody else's turn, right before your own. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and reveal them. Shuffle your library and then put those cards on top in any order. Awesome way to set up your next turn. Even better if you've got a draw spell in hand. That way you can just get all 3 of these creatures at the same time in the turn you need them. Really, really cool card, I think. For only 3 mana, get 3 creatures? Whew, that's a tough rate to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea with Geshaft, listener, is that I hit with Geshaft, and in response to the trigger, play this, put some fatties in there, maybe an Atali, a Verdant Sun's Avatar,
Yeah.
maybe even Sakama or something, I don't know, and just fart.
Yeah, and then with Geshaft's trigger, you get to barf them onto the battlefield
Yeah.
just directly. That's awesome.
God, dinosaurs are cool.
Here, Derek, you pick a couple of these multicolored cards. Which ones do you like?
Well, we did talk about Prime Speaker Vanifar,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a double-edged sword. This is a powerful effect, but it'll put a target on your back.
Yeah.
She is a legendary creature, so she can be your commander. She's green, blue, and 2 for a elf, who's wizard, 2/4, and she's got just tap. Sacrifice another creature. So this is Birthing Pod. If you know what this is, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only anytime you cast a sorcery. The last part sucks, but there are ways to untap in green and
Yeah.
blue.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be, start, sacrifice one creature, get another one. Sacrifice that creature, get a bigger one, a bigger one, a bigger one.
Right. The Prime Speaker Vanifar deck has pretty much been solved. If you're interested in figuring out the chain of cards that you need to win, you can search Prime Speaker Vanifar deck. But if you don't want Prime Speaker Vanifar as your commander, she can just be a great tutoring effect. Sack a creature, get a slightly better creature. That's just good. Just in general. You don't have to combo with this. I really like Prime Speaker Vanifar. I liked it when it came out. And then if you put it in the command zone, people are going to fire their guns directly at you.
Yep.
Yeah. Derek, any others that you like?
Well, you took Gerard's Orders
Sorry.
and Congregation at Dawn, so I think I'm good.
All right.
Did you talk about Sterling Grove?
Not yet. You want to
That one's green white. It's an enchantment. Other enchantments you control have Shroud, which is awesome. Well, assuming you've built your deck around having them have Shroud, which means they can't be the target of spells or abilities by anyone, including yourself. But you could also pay 1 to sacrifice the Sterling Grove, search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. So good protection and a Tutors tacked together, which is super cool.
I have put Sterling Grove in several decks. It protects your board until you need something. And then you sacrifice it, sacrifice the protection, get your winning enchantment out, and you're good. Yeah, I love this card. Randy, do you want to pick 1 or 2 from this? I think you'll like Ring Sight.
All right. Black, blue, and 1 for sorcery. It says, the ring tempts you. Search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature you control, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. Yeah, I mean, it's just good. It just gets you a legendary creature, put it into your hand. You don't know what to put it on the top. I think I hate that the most. Putting it on top of your library. I hate that effect. Because it's like, every single time someone makes me shuffle it, or I screw up and
Crack a
search for
fetch land.
land.
Crack an
It's almost
Evolving Wild.
exclusively you messing up and doing that.
Sure.
And
I
then
think
it'll
I've
be
done it
like
before,
5 minutes in, and like, God, I just forgot. Guys, can I redo my turn?
No.
I like the ring tempting you.
Yeah,
I like it saying you can search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature. Well, by gosh, if I'm playing Commander, I probably have a legendary creature with some colors in it.
that match.
And then the rest of my deck is probably spells that share colors.
We have
So,
to.
When the ring tempts you, doesn't your ring bearer become legendary?
yes,
So if you have any creature when you play ring sight, you get a
right. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
you-
Benjamin, paint us a picture with these last three.
Okay. So, Mythos of Brokos. It's 2 green, but if you're just paying that cost, it just says return up to 2 permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. It's great recursion, but not what we're here to talk about. The great part about Mythos of Brokos is it says if blue black was paid. So if it was, it's green 2, a green 2, if that 2 was played with blue black, then you get to search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle, then return 2 permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. So for blue, black, green, you can search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, and take a card from your graveyard to your hand. So it puts 2 cards in your hand, one of which was tutoring, like we've been talking about. So I like it. It's 2 cards for 4 mana, which is the going rate. But it's any card, but you get to pick 2 cards. It's really good.
Yeah.
One from your graveyard and one from
I
your
like it.
library. Yeah. Next one is Wargate. I'm actually surprised that Wargate was cheap enough. It's been really expensive for a really long time. It's green, white, blue, X. So search your library for a permanent card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it into play, then shuffle. So this is it's like Word of Invention or Court of Calling, but it's for any permanent. Just pay 3 in X, go put something into play. It's great.
X is 0, grab a land.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 3 mana
And
ramp.
it just says a permanent.
Yeah. Or and it scales from there. 4 mana get your soul ring. And then 5 and up, you start getting real cards, right? And just put it directly into play. Yeah. And then the last one, it's a split card. So it's supply and demand. And if you play the supply side, it's X green white, put X green saplings into play. So, late game, you're not sure what you need, just build an army. But it also, the demand side is 1 white blue, search your library for a multicolored card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So, lots of multicolored decks have multicolored cards. So, you just go find what you need, right? If you need a card, go get it.
Your
Demand
Soul Tie
will
Charm.
do that. Soul Tie Charm, yeah. Go
From last
get
week's episode.
Yep. Go get yourself a Maelstrom Pulse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Find
demand
that targeted removal you need.
Exactly. So demand will get you whatever multicolored card you need, and then if you don't need it anymore, then supply will build you an army. So it's a nice versatile card.
Very nice. Benjamin, you've actually got the rest of the cards on our list today.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a nap.
All the rest of the cards here are colorless. This next one actually belongs here in the multicolored category, though. It is Sunforger. Sunforger is a 3 mana equipment. Gives your equipped creature +4/+0, which by itself is pretty good, but no one plays it for that. What it actually has is an ability.
Yeah.
So it equips for 3, and then you can play red, white, and unattach it to search your library for a red or white instant or card with converted mana cost 4 or less and cast it for free. So you pay 3 to equip and 2 to unattach. So you're paying 5, but you can search for any white or red, and that includes multicolor. So if it's white green, if it's red, black, whatever. Search for an instant and play it for free. There's lots and lots of good instants for 4 mana or less. And so
listen to last week's episode.
Yes. And in fact, if you've leveled up your fighter class, now you can pay 3 mana to get yourself 4 mana instants from your deck. Sunforger is amazing, and there are entire decks built around Sunforger and the ability to, hey, even in a pinch, just go get your Source of Plowshares. Yeah, you paid 5 for a Source of Plowshares, but it's better than not being able to play it. The fact that it's repeat charm. Yeah. So the fact that it's reusable, you get to do it over and over again, as long as you have the mana and the ability to re-equip it. It's really good. Okay, getting into the true colorless.
It's under $5 now?
What? Sunforger? It was when I looked it up earlier.
Yeah, I think it's been reprinted several times.
Sunforger. Yeah, every printing except Modern Masters 2015 is under $5.
Awesome.
The original Ravnica printing's under $2. That's amazing. Okay, next one's Conduit of Ruin, and this is barely under $5. So when you cast it, it's a cast trigger. It doesn't even have to resolve. If they counter the spell, you still get the trigger. Go search your library for a colorless creature card with converted mana cost 7 or greater. So it's going to get your finisher. It's going to get your Blightsteel Colossus or an Eldrazi or something like that. You shuffle it and then you put that card on top of your library. But then it also helps you cast it, because the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. So you cast this to get your finisher on top of your library. You draw it, and now it's cheaper on your next turn. Conduit of Ruin is really good. Heck, I even put it, if I'm playing a big mana deck, I will put this in decks that don't run a whole lot of colorless creatures, because the making your creature spells cheaper is for anything, not just colorless. It makes your Craterhoof Behemoth cheaper. Okay. Next one is Moonsilver Key. It's a 2 mana artifact, and you can pay 1 and sacrifice it to search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card, and put it in your hand and then shuffle. There are lots of really good artifacts with mana abilities that are not just mana rocks. So, for example, last week we talked about, what's the 3 mana artifact that you can pay 7 to destroy something?
Unstable Obelisk.
Unstable Obelisk. There you go. There's a lot of mana rocks that have a secondary ability that's really useful. And so Moonsilver Key can go get them. There's lots of mana rocks that are very, very powerful. And that, like the one that's like Nykthos, that gets you mana equal to your devotion to a color or things like that. So Moonsilver Key. So if you're playing this is like the things that let you search for any land. There's lots of decks and combos that are based around mana rocks, and Moonsilver Key can help you find the right piece. Next on the list is Kuldotha Forge Master. Again, this is one that's barely under $5 because it's so good. It's a 5 mana artifact creature construct for 3/5, and you can tap and sacrifice 3 artifacts to search your library for any artifact and put it on the battlefield. So for 5 mana, you can sack 3 clues and go get your Blightsteel Colossus. Go get your Randy. What's that artifact that you play that you pay 50 life to kill somebody?
Aetherflux Reservoir.
Aetherflux Reservoir. There you go. Go get your Aetherflux Reservoir. It gets any artifact, puts it directly on a battlefield for the low cost of sacking 3 artifacts. And that sounds like a steep cost, but it is one of your artifacts, first of all, if you don't need to reuse it. So then it's paying 5 mana and sacrificing 2 artifacts to get any artifact from your deck and putting it directly on the battlefield. So really good. And then the last one, only for the biggest rampers out there, but a lot of these artifact decks are, just trying to go big. And so the last one I want to talk about is Planar Bridge. 6 mana for a legendary artifact, and it says 8 and tap it. Search your library for a permanent card, put it on the battlefield. So this is one where you're just Eldrazi.
You're just vibing, baby.
What?
Yeah, whales, titans.
Yeah, whatever you need.
Octopus.
Behemoths.
Leviathans.
Yeah. Just every turn, you pay 8. Go. This is great in ramp decks that don't necessarily have enough card draw. because it's like, I don't know what to do with all this mana. Let me just go get the next biggest thing out of my deck. All right, let's do it again.
Go
And
get
every turn-
Omniscience.
Bomb after bomb after bomb. Yeah.
That's true. It can get Omniscience. That's right. Omniscience. That probably should be the first thing you get with this. Pay 8, go get Omniscience, and now everything else is free. Yeah. So there's
good.
There's a similar one where it's pay 6 to find a card and put it in your hand. I don't like it as much. It can get any card, and it's repeatable. But this one, you pay 2 more mana, you get it directly on the battlefield. I like it better. All right.
So that's our list, listeners. We made a list of lots of tutors in lots of colors, and every card we mentioned today, again, was less than $5. So you can really increase the power of your decks with not a lot of dollar investment. All of these cards you can print for free with your at-home printer, or you can pay, your actual money to get your actual sanctioned copies. But we know Derek's stance on that.
Play the game, baby.
Like we mentioned at the top of the show, you should think about what adding tutors is going to do to your game group. Is this going to start an arms race if your deck starts increasing its win percentage? And when you add tutors to your deck, it is going to increase your win percentage and your decks are going to be more consistent. Now, are you in a competitive meta or at a competitive shop where the goal is to win? By all means, if winning is the social contract, we hope that you can find some winning cards by using the list that we provided today. Any closing comments? Any words of wisdom, Benjamin?
I mean, you basically just said them. Oh, there we go. The dogs with the words of wisdom. That's all right. They got it.
Yep, that is a signal that my wife is home. Let's do our social media coordinates, our Patreon, patreon.com/MyMythicalMeta. You can email us at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. Benjamin, Derek, Randy, thank you guys so much for being my great friends. Listeners, thank you guys for listening, and we hope you'll give us a listen next time. Adios.
Yeah. Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.